William Thomas Ward was born on May 5, 1948, in Birmingham, the industrial heart of England. The gray, smoky, and metallic atmosphere of post-World War II Britain was etched into Bill's soul. The rhythmic hammer sounds coming from the factories were his first metronome. At a young age, he fell in love with jazz music, especially Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. This love for jazz was the first clue of how he would later stretch the rigid rhythms of heavy metal. Bill didn't just want to be a drummer, he wanted to beat the air with his sticks, to tell a story. When he got his first drum kit, the streets of Birmingham would witness a thunderous roar never heard before. Storms were brewing inside this young man, and the only thing that could calm that storm was a stretched skin and a brass cymbal. Bill Ward began his musical journey in various local bands, but the real turning point was meeting Tony Iommi. While playing together in the band Mythology, that mystic bond between them began to form. Ward was not just a timekeeper, he added incredible depth to Iommi's blues-based riffs of that era. His drum hits were far beyond the lightness expected from a blues band. While the music world at the time was focused on softer tones, Bill and Tony were after something darker and heavier. Performing in the damp bars of Birmingham, every hit by Bill Ward was like an echo coming from 7 layers beneath the earth. This was a wild period where the raw version of the Black Sabbath legend took shape, and alcohol and music blended together.
By 1969, the band known as Polka Tulk Blues Band and then Earth finally took the name Black Sabbath. Bill Ward's role here was critical. He didn't just hit 4 on the floor like other rock drummers. He placed that swing feel he took from jazz between the heavy riffs Iommi created with his misting fingers. This was something unheard of until then. Bill's drum tone was like watching a building collapse, chaotic yet perfectly controlled. In the first album recordings, the sound waves Bill created in that narrow studio space pushed the mixers to their limits. Those cymbals at the beginning of the famous song Black Sabbath, they weren't just pieces of metal, they were the opening screams of a horror movie. Black Sabbath's debut album was recorded in just 3 days. Bill Ward was in a virtual trance during this process. In songs like NIB and Behind the Wall of Sleep, Ward's drumming worked like a perfect gear with bass's Geezer Butler. Bill used every part of the drum like an instrument. Tom-tom transitions were like claps of thunder. Although critics tore the band apart at the time, listeners could not remain indifferent to Bill Ward's staggering rhythms. He combined the elegance of a jazz drummer with the power of a construction worker. This album became the manifesto of heavy metal, and Bill Ward signed this manifesto most powerfully with his drumsticks. The real explosion came with the Paranoid album. Think of that iconic intro to War Pigs. The way Bill Ward filled the air gaps there should be taught in conservatories even today. Those famous foot hits in the song Iron Man made you feel as if a giant robot was actually walking through city streets. Ward controlled the tempo of the song in such a way that the listener knew they could encounter a surprise at any moment. The jazz walks he displayed in Fairies Wear Boots were the first evidence of how technical metal music could be. Bill was now a worldwide star, but he preferred sweating behind his massive Ludwig drum kit over fame. With the Master of Reality album, the Sabbath sound deepened even further. Bill Ward used special techniques in this album to make his drums sound thicker and meatier. The tribal, ritual-like rhythm in the song Children of the Grave is considered the ancestor of the entire groove metal genre today. Bill took the energy of the song to such a point that Tony Iommi's riffs practically glided over his drums. During this period, Bill's equipment choices also began to change. Larger cymbals, deeper tom-toms. He was a drummer who pushed his physical limits. It was said that blood would drip from his hands after concerts, because for Bill, playing was a matter of life and death. The Vol 4 and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath eras were the band's peak, but also the beginning of the decline. Bill Ward began experimenting with new sounds in the studio. That incredible drum solo in the song Supernaut caused even Frank Zappa to declare Bill Ward his favorite drummer. However, along with this success, substance abuse and alcohol also knocked on the band's door. Bill describes those days by saying, "I don't remember some moments at all." Yet from within that foggy mind, incredible rhythms that laid the foundation for thrash metal, like Symptom of the Universe, emerged. While Bill fought the monsters within him on one hand, he continued to write metal history on the other. When we analyze Bill Ward's technique in depth, we see his mastery of ghost notes. He wouldn't just play the main beats, he would fill the spaces between beats with small, elegant touches. This was a legacy from his jazz background. Additionally, Bill used every part of his body while drumming. He would integrate with the kit like a dancer. The tempo changes in the song Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath are a testament to Bill's musical intelligence. Instead of being a slave to a metronome, he followed the rhythm of emotions. That's why no Sabbath performance was identical to another. Bill was born again behind that drum set every night. Towards the end of the 1970s, Bill's health began to sound alarm bells. Alcoholism was draining his immense energy. During the Never Say Die album, tension within the band was at its peak. Bill thought about leaving the band several times, but Black Sabbath was his family. His bond with Tony, Geezer, and Ozzy was beyond music. However, Ozzy's departure from the band shook Bill deeply. They recorded the Heaven and Hell album with new vocalist Ronnie James Dio. Bill was still magnificent with his playing on this album, but personally he was in a void. He surprised everyone by suddenly leaving a tour. His soul could no longer handle this pace. In 1980, during the Heaven and Hell tour, Bill left the band, leaving a note. In his own words, he was no longer there. Alcohol addiction had brought him to a point where he didn't know what he was doing on stage. This was a shocking development for the metal world. Black Sabbath had lost its heart. Bill spent this period seeking treatment and turning inward. When he returned a few years later for the Born Again album, he displayed that old wild power again, alongside Ian Gillan. His drum performance in songs like Digital Bitch and Zero the Hero proved that Bill Ward was still the ruler. Bill Ward's influence is not limited to Black Sabbath alone. He set a standard for everything from the setup of the drum kit to the playing style. He always tuned his drums to be very tight and explosive in tone. The origins of those punchy drum sounds you hear in modern metal today go back to Bill's studio experiments. Additionally, he taught how to create aggression in drumming, not just by hitting hard, but by shifting the placement of the rhythm. Many progressive metal drummers are still trying to figure out those strange time signatures in Ward's Volume 4 album. He combined a warrior's rage with an engineer's precision. During the periods he was away from the band, Bill focused on his solo career. Albums like Ward 1, Along the Way, and When the Bow Breaks showed that he was not only a drummer, but also a talented composer and singer. These albums revealed the more fragile and melodic side of Bill's inner world, distinct from the darkness of Sabbath. He was now living a sober life and had regained his health. During this period, Bill clung to the healing power of music. This time, he was swinging his drumsticks not just for destruction, but to heal his soul. In 1997, the original lineup of Black Sabbath came back together for a legendary reunion. The reunion album and live concerts reminded the whole world of Bill Ward's old glory. Playing Iron Man with the original lineup, that imaginary expression on Bill's face was like a giant's return home. Although he had aged, that swing and weight in his hits had never disappeared. Younger generations of metalheads got the chance to watch the legend live for the first time. Those concerts were living proof of why Bill was indispensable. Without him, Sabbath was just a collection of riffs. However, the story doesn't always end with a happy ending. In 2012, when Black Sabbath gathered for one final album, 13, and a farewell tour, Bill Ward was not in the lineup. Disputes over contract terms and his health status left fans deeply saddened. Bill argued that the contract offered to him was unsignable. Tony Iommi and others claimed that Bill could not physically handle such a heavy tour. This was the end of an era. At Sabbath's final concert, Bill's empty throne remained one of the saddest sights in the metal world. Today, Bill Ward is still involved with music. He introduces new generation bands and follows developments in the music world through his radio program, Rock 50. The poems and thoughts he shares on social media show what a deep intellectual he is. Although he isn't on stage with Sabbath physically, his heart still beats within that Birmingham metal. He continues to produce new music with his band Day of Errors. Despite his age, Bill never lost that passion for the drums. He is a living library and one of the wisest figures in metal. Lars Ulrich, Metallica, once said of Bill Ward, "Without his beats, there would be no Metallica." Bill Ward's legacy is everywhere, from extreme metal to punk rock. His style of drumming taught that music should be seen not just as a rhythm tool, but as an atmosphere-building tool. In particular, the slow-tempo but heavy doom metal genre is built entirely on Bill's playing in Master of Reality. Bill proved that the drums are not just an instrument that stays in the back, but a steering wheel that determines the direction of the band. His legacy continues to echo in every studio today.
The biggest trait that separated Bill Ward from others was his artistic vision. He saw his hits like the brushstrokes of a painter. The energetic and variable structure in the song Dirty Women shows Bill's ability to create a different character for each section of the song. He played not just the notes, but the silence between the notes. For Bill, a drum solo was an emotional explosion rather than a technical show. That's why his solos are never boring. They always tell a story and take you on a journey.
Over the years, Bill struggled with heart attacks and various health problems, but each time, he knew how to get back up. His resilience was like the tough steel of Birmingham. His love for music became the greatest force connecting him to life. In an interview, Bill Ward said, "I feel incomplete when I'm not playing drums." This dedication is what makes him a legend. He is not just a successful musician, but a warrior who has taken life's hits but never given up. Even today, every morning when he sits down at his drums, he carries that excited 18-year-old youth inside him. The respect felt for Bill Ward in the metal community is unique. He was never a rock star with an ego. He always remained humble and honest. Behind that dark and tough image of Black Sabbath, Bill Ward was known as the most emotional and conscientious member of the group. His bond with his fans was always very strong. Everyone who watched him on stage knew that Bill was giving his whole soul there at that moment. This sincerity made him not just a musician, but Father Bill of the metal world. His legacy lives on in something much more valuable than gold records or money, in people's hearts.
In conclusion, Bill Ward is the heart of heavy metal. That young boy who came out of the smoky streets of Birmingham started a rhythmic revolution that moved the world. In the giant shadow of Black Sabbath, Bill's drums were always a guiding light. He achieved the impossible by combining the grace of jazz with the sledgehammer of metal. The name Bill Ward will not be forgotten as long as the world turns and people bang their heads to those heavy riffs. He is a true legend, a genius, and the pulse of heavy metal. Salute Bill Ward, because when he puts down those sticks, the world will get a little quieter. Stay metal.